As EVs continue to become more accepted into the mainstream automotive world, this change has essentially forced auto manufacturers to offer EVs that are larger, more practical, but above all, more affordable. Now, thankfully, Kia is one of the first manufacturers to enter a space where EVs really haven't played, and that's the three-row, more affordable mainstream SUV segment. And with the introduction of this vehicle here, the 2024 Kia EV9, the company is essentially offering an electric Telluride for the modern era. However, unlike its gas-powered corporate sibling, this vehicle is built off of a dedicated EV architecture, offering up to 304 miles of range, the ability to carry up to 7 people, and tow up to 5,000 pounds. Now, we already had a chance to drive the EV9 out in California earlier this year, but as you can see, this week, Kia has loaned us the top-of-the-line version. This is an EV9 GT line with the dual-motor all-wheel drive system, which means we have up to 379 horsepower, up to 270 miles of range, and a design that seriously looks like the next-generation version of the ever-so-popular Telluride. So the big question I want answered, for those of you who are looking for a mainstream electric vehicle but you need seating for up to 7, has Kia successfully created the future of family motoring with the EV9? Stay tuned to find out. So when Kia first revealed the EV9, its styling was seriously standoutish. It looked like an electric version of the Kia Telluride, but before we talk about the design of this model here, let's go ahead and pop the hood and reveal what's underneath the frunk, because that's always the million-dollar question. As you can see, the EV9 does have a frunk, albeit a very small one. Now, underneath this hood, Kia says there's 1.8 cubic feet of total storage space. Obviously, that is very, very small considering the length of the hood. It has just enough space for the mobile charger, the V2L contraption where you can essentially use this vehicle like a generator or like as a backup battery. But since we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. Now, here in America, Kia is going to offer the EV9 in two different battery sizes. The standard battery pack on the Lite with rear-wheel drive measures 76 kilowatt hours. It's a lithium-ion battery pack. That's good for 230 miles of range. Every other trim level of the EV9 will have the bigger 99.8 kilowatt hour battery pack, offering up to 304 miles of range on the light long range trim. On this model here, it'll do up to 270 miles of range. And because this is the GT line, it also has the most power. We're talking 379 horsepower, so almost 400 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. That's a nice increase versus the 443 that you get in other versions of the dual motor all-wheel drive EV9. Like I said earlier, this is all-wheel drive. It's got essentially a motor at the front and a motor at the rear. It all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission. Kia claims 0 to 60 should be around 5 seconds. The last time we tested one, we got 4.8, so we'll get this out on the road and see what we can get in our actual testing here. In terms of the top speed, this should have a top speed of around 124 miles an hour. It'll tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds, which is standard on the GT line trim. And then as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just under 5,900 pounds. It's a good 1,300 pounds heavier versus a Telluride, and all that weight essentially comes from that big battery pack. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is essentially the Hero version. It's painted in ocean blue metallic paint. It's like around a $625 upcharge. Kia also offers a matte finish version of this color. They also offer like a matte finish silver. I personally would skip the matte colors because of the higher maintenance where you can't take it to a car wash, but as you can see, this car seriously turns a lot of heads. I mean, it's amazing to me how Kia essentially took a car that looks like a concept car and brought it to production. I love the, very square, blocky appearance of the EV9 with their digital tiger nose grille. Obviously, no opening for the grille because it doesn't need it. It's an EV. You do have the new corporate Kia logo there, which looks fantastic. You have the upgraded digital light pattern in the grille with these cube-style full LED headlights. All EV9s come with LED headlights, but you can see with the Land and GT line, you get an upgraded projector style with the LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. This digital light pattern in the grille is customizable via the actual center screen where you can put different patterns. This is the technical pattern that I have it set at. It looks even more futuristic and amazing at night. You can see you've got a nicely integrated front camera system here, integrated parking sensors, some active grille shutters down here, along with some more functional openings. The GT line also has a more aggressive front bumper that really gives off a more sportier, again, futuristic, modern Telluride vibe to it that I think is going to age really well, and it seriously turns a lot of heads. Now, moving around the side profile, even though this car, you might think that it shares an architecture with the Telluride, it's actually built off of the same eGMP architecture as the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6. Its wheelbase wheelbase, however, has been stretched to 122 inches long. That's 8 inches longer than the Telluride. Its overall length is 197.4. That's about a half an inch longer than the Telluride. This vehicle is about a half an inch lower, but it's about the same width. So that's probably why, Kia wanted it to kind of look like this, because they wanted it to have, the kind of proportions that people would need for a family SUV. You can see the wheels. These are the unique wheels that you get with the GT line trim. B. Sorry about that, there was a bee attacking me. You can see these are the unique 21-inch wheels that you get with the GT line trim. They kind of have a really interesting kind of square design theme to them with aerodynamic covers. They're wrapped in a 275 by 45 with our 21-inch Hankook all-season tires. This vehicle has roughly 7.8 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty average, a little bit lower versus the Telluride. I also like these black painted wheel arch trim. You can see everything else has kind of like a paint finish as opposed to the cladding finish. You do have these nicely integrated turn signal mirrors here with the black painted, and they're also have a nicely integrated camera as well. You can see no chrome along the trim of this vehicle because it's the GT line. And then you can see this trim also comes standard with the dual panel sunroofs. Only the sunroof panel over the front seats actually opens up. Love the look of the roof rails, which are also black painted. And then moving back here, you can really see the Telluride inspiration here. I think that it also has a little bit of design influence there from the Kia EV6, which I think is a really great thing. Overall, I think Kia did a wonderful job with the proportions of this vehicle. Square is kind of in, and they really captured that with this new model. Now you can see over here, this is where you would charge the EV9, and you can see it's got a power opening and closing charge port door. And because this vehicle rides on an 800-volt architecture, it's one of the quickest charging EVs on the market. So basically you can go from 10 to 80% on a level 3 350 kilowatt charger in about 24 minutes. It has a 10.9 kilowatt onboard charger, which means it'll take about 8 hours to charge at home on a level 2 from 10 to 100%. And like I said earlier, this model here will do around 270 miles of range. We'll talk about the real world range when we go into the driving portion. Now you can see, looking at the rear, the design almost looks very much like a Volvo with those kind of stacked vertical LED taillights. You can see it has a really interesting light signature there where it's a full LED taillight design. You have the GT line badge over there, the new Kia badge, obviously, and then the EV9 badge. I also like the fact that there's a digital camera rearview mirror, there's the camera for it, and then Kia also cleverly hides the rear wiper underneath that spoiler, which I believe is a little bit larger on the GT line version. Now, opening up the cargo area, this is where, again, you're gonna find plenty to like with this vehicle, especially if you're trading in your gas-powered family crossover for it. You can see with the third row seat up, which is standard, you get just over 20 cubic feet of total cargo space, which is about a cubic feet less versus what you find in something like the Kia Telluride. If you want to fold down the third row seat here, you can see it's a manual fold style seat, which is pretty easy to do. Just pull that, it'll expand the cargo to around 43.5 cubic feet. If you fold down the second row, Kia says you have a maximum of just over 81 cubic feet, which is, again, a little bit less than its gas-powered Telluride cousin, but this is still among the most practical and spacious that you're gonna find in the segment, and it really shows you that you can get, a practical three-row family vehicle, and you can also still go electric while doing so. So the exterior of the 2024 EV9 is obviously going to turn a lot of heads on the road, but what about the inside? Let me first show you guys the key fob for the vehicle. You can see this is Kia's latest corporate fob that they introduced, I believe, on the EV6. Love the look of the fob as well. I love the kind of white, almost like stone-like material that they use on the actual fob itself with the metallic accents. You can see it has your usual buttons here for lock, unlock, power liftgate, panic, and you also have their remote start, their smart park feature where you can move the vehicle forward and back from the actual fob while you're standing outside. And then you can see that button will also open up the hood as well. Kia also offers their version of their digital key 2, where if you're an owner of the vehicle, you can actually use your smartphone instead of having the key fob to approach the vehicle and also start it up. Now, you can see the door handles on this vehicle, they pop in and out electronically. So as you approach, or if you lock the car, they're gonna retract into the body of the door. If you approach the vehicle, I wasn't far away enough, it'll actually pop the door handles out and unlock as I touch it. You can see, without doing so, I can basically just use the fob. I guess we'll have to use the fob here. Hit the unlock button, you can see that will unlock the door. Again, if I walked away from the vehicle and walked back, it'll actually retract the door handle for me. You can see the mirrors also power fold in and out, which is nice. And then pulling the door handle, you can see it reveals the interior. Now, this particular color combination is exactly how I would choose it myself. You can see this material looks like leather, but it's a synthetic leather called Syntex. So it's a vegan leather, animal-free leather. I also love how the head restraint of this vehicle, they actually use kind of like a netting material. The head restraint also moves forward and back. It goes up and down. These seats are heated, ventilated, and on this trim here, they come with an ergo motion massage only on the driver's side. In fact, every EV9 comes standard with heated and ventilated seats with power adjustments. So that's one of the reasons why this car has a more expensive starting price. I love the two-tone look with this kind of interesting pattern in the perforations in the actual seats themselves. This is kind of like a light gray finished interior with a two-tone black. You can see there's gray accents along the door panel trim where you have an upper soft touch material you can see with some kind of gray shiny plastic material here, aluminum accented door handle. You have all these buttons here for the two-person memory seats, your heated and cooled seat, your heated steering wheel, and that's for your massage feature. Padded over here, and you can see the Meridian sound system in this vehicle. 14 speakers, actually sounds pretty good. It sounds better versus the last Meridian sound system I heard in the EV6, for example. You can see down here it is hard touch plastic, a little bit of storage here, and then these seats, they adjust, I believe, in like 16 different ways. And you also have like a lounge function where you can essentially have the vehicle parked and it has like an ottoman that pops out. It'll recline to basically allow you to take a nap in this car while you're charging it. Although they won't be very long naps because, like I mentioned earlier, this car will charge from 10 to 80% in about 24 minutes. But getting inside, you can see with around 7.8 inches of ground clearance, it has a nice, easy step-in height. As I shut the door, the door has a nice, solid sounding thunk. You can see the steering wheel is a power tilt and telescoping mechanism, which is nice. And then when you want to start the vehicle up, this is where if you've never been in this car, it is a little difficult to find the start stop button. It's actually hidden down here by the gear selector. So you can see where there's like a power button here. It says EV. You push that. That's going to turn the vehicle on along with all the electronics. Remember, it's an electric car, so there's no starter noise. It just says ready to drive in the instrument panel. And the two screens here, or technically three screens, they were to life. Now with the GT line, you also get a nice heads-up display there, which is slightly customizable. And then you have basically the signature infotainment system that Kia has been doing, where you have basically this one big screen, but it's actually made up of three different screens. So this screen here is a 12.3-inch digital cockpit instrument panel. You have a smaller 5-inch climate screen over here in the center. And then you have a 12.3-inch center screen here with Kia's latest CNCC software, which means we finally have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is fantastic. I believe this is the first Kia vehicle to get it. Sadly, I can't show you the CarPlay because I'm using my phone to actually film this. And if I use my phone, the CarPlay will actually, zonk out the audio. So that's why it's not connected to the CarPlay, but you can basically access it here via the phone projection. There's my phone over there. And once you do, it does take up the entire screen, which looks fantastic. The software here within the CNCC system is very quick and snappy and responsive. You can see there is factory embedded GPS, although Kia's nav system isn't anything super special. They did finally add navigation route planning. So if you've got a GPS function in there, the system will automatically send you to charging stations along the way, and it'll tell you how long you need to charge as well. So that's, again, something that Tesla pioneered. It's great to see the other auto manufacturers catching up to that as well. You can see the upper dashboard material. You can see this area here is hard touch plastic. This area here is a soft touch injection molded plastic. You can see there's kind of like a fabric material here with this interesting texture. On this portion, you can see I love this kind of matte finish gray plastic material. You have some haptic buttons which are illuminated here on the actual dash. You have physical controls here for your volume, for your temperature controls. You have two USB charging ports here and two USB-Cs, another standard power outlet here, which is also nice. And then you can see the ambient lighting in this vehicle offers two different styles, two different color combinations, along with your own customizable one. The lighting in this vehicle looks fantastic at night. It really just makes this car feel like you're driving a luxury vehicle. The Kia logo on the steering wheel also illuminates, which is a nice detailed touch. You can see the steering wheel itself has a power tilt telescoping. You have paddles to control the regen braking, controls for adjusting that screen there for your adaptive cruise control. There's a four-wheel drive lock button here that locks it in like a 50-50 torque split, I believe. And then your drive mode selector is here. You can go between 5 different modes: a sport, a my drive, snow, an eco, and a normal mode. We'll try that out later on. You can see the gauge display also changes based on what drive mode you're on. You can also change that setting if you don't like that. The horn It sounds nondescript, but appropriate given the size of the vehicle. And then you can see down here, there's kind of like a floating center console design. There's a little bit more open storage down here, which honestly is the perfect place to put all my camera equipment when I'm not using it. You can see these cup holders also, they retract into the actual console themselves. You just simply push that button that retracts out. There's also a nice sturdy lid that covers up the cup holders if you prefer. This is a nice leather material covering that. You have a fingerprint scanner here. You have a downhill assist control that opens up your full 360 camera, which will also come up if you're in reverse. You can see the camera quality and resolution is great. You can also do a 360 perimeter scan around the vehicle. That's exactly what you expect in like a European luxury vehicle, but it's here in this Kia. Nice padded center console area here. You can see nice size wireless phone charging place where it also is elevated, so it allows your phone to kind of get ventilation while it's charging. You can see there's a relatively shallow center console storage area. We'll talk about why that's so shallow when we get into the second row. I like how Kia and Hyundai and Genesis allow you to kind of adjust the passenger seat with these additional buttons here. The seats, by the way, themselves are comfortable, supportive, and for fake leather material, they feel extremely plush and high quality. So Kia did a fantastic job with the seats. You can see the glove compartment there. Opens up, it's a bin style, it's damped and it's lined with felt. It's actually huge. It offers 2 levels of storage, which is great. There's plenty of storage in this vehicle. You can see the GT line trim also includes a digital camera rear view mirror, which also functions as a standard mirror if you guys prefer, but that's really great if you have stuff filled up to the roof of the vehicle. There's a nice microfiber suede material on the headliner. This sunroof you can see has just a manual shade. It looks like a standard sunroof, but again, there's another sunroof in the back. This actually opens up to vent air. If you'd like, you can see it opens up completely and allows you to basically get a little bit more ventilation and sunlight, which is a nice touch. But overall, as you can see, the interior of the EV9 definitely has a more luxury car vibe. It has all the tech that you could possibly want. It has really comfortable seats, great build quality, really good visibility. So it's pretty easy to see why families are probably going to be attracted to this vehicle because of how Kia has designed this front seat area. Moving to the second row, this is another reason why, again, people are going to look at this over a lot of its rivals, because the EV9 does offer true, 3-row passenger seating, so you can seat up to 7. This model here will seat up to 6 because you have these massive, really comfortable captain's chairs. If you guys go, if you want to bench in the second row, you have to step down to a wind trim level, so that will basically give you the 7-passenger configuration. The Land and the GT line will only come as a 6-passenger config because the third row only seats 2 across. Now you can see in terms of materials, there are some nice soft touch materials here with more of that gray painted plastic, padded area over here, metal speakers here. For the Meridian sound system, it's hard touch plastic here. This trim also gives you a nice manual rear window sunshade, and you also have heated and ventilated second row seats. That's only included, I believe, when you guys go for the Land or the GT line trim. And then my tester for $2,000 has the relaxation upgraded second row captain's chairs. These are actually 8-way power adjustable, which is kind of interesting. The passenger side there is also 8-way power adjustable. You can actually move the seat up and down, and you can also open up the ottoman here. So this pretty much is like a first-class lounge chair in the second row. I probably would skip this because it does take up additional 2 inches of legroom in the third row. But for those of you who, again, plan to carry 4 adults in this car, let me go ahead and get back here and show you guys the space. Now, closing the door, it still has that same solid sounding thunk, and then the legroom space here is huge. Kia says with the seat all the way back here, this is where I'd basically have the seat to drive, you have around 42 inches of legroom back here, which is about the same size as a Kia Telluride, which is fantastic. There's a completely flat floor here and a pass-through here if you want to get into the third row. You do have your own cup holders here. You have 2 USB-C charging ports in each of the seat back pockets. And then here's the reason why the console is so shallow. Open this up. You can see all that space is being used for the second row passengers. So you can see, open that up, there's a pretty deep storage compartment here, or you can also use this like a little tray here, or if you want to put like a drink, or I guess maybe like if your kids are eating food back here. I personally hate eating in the car. It makes a mess. But again, that's all very nice for families. You do also have some 2 storage pockets over here, which is great. And then I mentioned earlier, these seats, they do give you the ability to recline and move the seat up and down. You also have the cooled function here, which is fantastic. And you can see there's more LED ambient lighting where it's 2 different colors, blue and green down here. You can change that by going into the settings in the screen. You also have your own rear seat climate control. You can see it's up here on the roof where you have rear seat air vents. You have LED map lighting here as well, and that beautiful microfiber material comes back here. You can see this lets in a lot of light, which is nice, but if you want to close this shade, you actually have to actually ask the driver or the passenger in the front to do that via a button up here. As you can see, the sun kind of pours in. This could be a slightly darker tint. This also doesn't open up to vent air. But let's go ahead and hop into the third row area, because I do want to show you guys what that space is like. With these recliner lounge chairs, you just push that button over there. You can see the headrests are also the comfort headrests. These actually will wing in and out to provide a little bit more like a pillow-like comfort material. But you can see it's a little bit slow, but when it moves out of the way, it does provide a decent amount of room to get into the third row, which I'll go ahead and do so to show you guys the space. Let's go ahead and close this door right here. Ooh, okay. And then to bring this seat back, you just push that top button over here. You can see the seat will come back. Now, when it does come back into its position, it doesn't go all the way fully back. So you can see it actually stopped right there. It stopped a couple inches shy, and this is where it's gonna give me enough leg room for somebody 5'7" to sit back here. My knees do touch the seat back here, just barely grazing it. But Kia says there's around 29.9 inches of legroom back here. Now, I imagine this is probably more like 30-ish, 32 inches of legroom. This is with the seat all the way back. You can see if I scooch my butt over here, this is where it's very, very tight. So you're definitely gonna wanna ask the passenger here to move their seat forward. Keep in mind, these lounge chairs take up about 2 inches of actual space because of the power mechanism that it needs. So you do get up to 32 inches of legroom if you guys go for the standard captain's chairs. This has a little bit less space versus the Telluride. But what saves the EV9 is the headroom space. You can see as I sit back here, there's just a ton of headroom space. Kia says there's 39.5 inches. That's almost 2 inches more versus a Telluride with the dual panel sunroof. So that's, again, a really nice touch for taller drivers. You can see there's also LED lighting here. Rear seat air vents. You have USB-C charging ports, hard touch plastic area here with cup holders. Same thing over here on the passenger side of the vehicle. But overall, if you guys plan to carry up to 6 or 7 people, you can do so. But again, if you want maximum third row legroom, I would skip these seats, or I would also love to see the bench seat option. The bench seat option apparently does take up space as well. But if you're looking for 8 passenger seating, this is where the EV9 will only seat up to 7. So for the longest time, if you were looking for an electric 3-row SUV, your choices were really limited to basically one model, the Tesla Model X, and then of course there was the Rivian R1S, there's also Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV, but Kia is really the first to market with a more affordable, mainstream style electric, fully electric 3-row SUV. And when I first had a chance to drive this vehicle out in California, I was pretty impressed. I mean, this car has been winning awards basically non-stop since it came out, and this is my first time spending a full week with the EV9, and I have to say first impressions are just as good as when I first drove this vehicle out in California. The model that we're driving is the most powerful version for now, the GT line, with 379 horsepower and more torque, 516 pound-feet. So we're at about an 88% state of charge. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. We'll basically brake torque it. I'll never get tired of that. EVs are always fast off the line. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. So that's actually around 0.3 seconds faster than when I first tested this vehicle out in California. Now, granted, in California, I was on probably not the most level road. I also had an extra passenger, Tommy, with me, which honestly, he doesn't weigh much. So that time is pretty impressive. 4.5 for something that weighs almost 6,000 pounds, that can carry, 6 people in this configuration. It'll tow up to 5,000 pounds. It really shows you just how silly quick these electric vehicles have become. We live in a world where you can buy basically a 6,000 pound SUV that's, shaped like a brick, but surprisingly has good aerodynamics for what it is. It is very impressive at how quick this car actually is, in these conditions. But you don't really buy a vehicle like this to go drag racing, but it's nice that, Kia gives you all that performance. And keep in mind, I had the test over there in sport mode. If you switch the drive modes around, you can actually, make the car feel a little different. I'll go ahead and switch to, for example, the eco mode in this car. In eco mode, the range goes up on the trip computer by about almost 20 miles. And then if I put my foot down, I definitely notice it doesn't feel quite as quick in the eco mode, but this is probably how most people will end up driving the EV9. You can also put it into a normal mode there, and this one again will give you the same kind of immediacy, but you can also feel like the computer is tailoring things back. And sport mode is going to give you obviously all the maximum power. It kind of stiffens up the suspension slightly, the steering gets a little bit heavier, and then it also has the quickest response. It also has that fake kind of sound that's coming out from the speakers, where it's kind of like an electric motor, whirring sound. You can turn that on and off, but you know what? I actually really enjoy the sound. I think it adds some drama to the whole experience, and it's very futuristic, very like George Jetson, the Jetsons, in terms of the sound, which I really like. And then the EV9 is just really easy to drive, even though this car, is heavy and big. It just kind of just drives like a bigger version of the EV6. You've got that skateboard architecture. The center of gravity is nice and low, so the vehicle doesn't feel too top heavy. It actually surprisingly will change the directions pretty quickly. The steering provides quickness. It just doesn't have much in terms of feel. And the softly sprung suspension does obviously, give you some leans in the corners, but it's not bad. It really just shows you that this car, it drives really nicely. It's going to be excellent for road trips, or just piling around town as well. Put your foot down. The car will, almost feel like it wants to rotate, but it just feels very planted. It feels very nimble. You obviously will feel the heft in certain conditions when you're trying to pilot it around in your favorite back road and whatnot, but it's still really nice to, drive this thing. I'm also sitting here getting a massage, and it's also very, very quiet in here if you guys want to turn off all of the electric sounds, the fake sounds this thing makes. But let's go ahead and try it here, 0 to 60 in just normal mode, without brake torquing it, and see what we can get. Definitely feels noticeably slower, but then once you ramp things up, 4.6 seconds there, so about a 0.1 second reduction in normal mode, which, all day long you can basically just put your foot down when you have a load of passengers, and you'll be able to do a 0 to 60 sprint in the under 5 to 5 second range. So that is pretty darn impressive. Considering, this also isn't like a fully performance-oriented GT model, but the turning radius of the EV9 also is pretty good considering the size of the vehicle. Just putting my foot down again, so much smooth, linear power. There's no gears, obviously, it just kind of goes. And obviously, if you're coming from like a Telluride, this is where it's going to feel like quite an upgrade. I mean, this car to me feels like I'm sitting in a Telluride with its nice higher seating position, the commanding view of the road, the boxiness of it. It's still quiet in terms of road noise, in terms of wind noise, and you can again turn off that engine or that fake electric motor whirring sound if you guys prefer to just go completely silent. The seats are also very comfortable and supportive. In sport mode, they actually will inflate the bolsters to kind of hold you in place a little bit nicer. And like I said earlier, I'm sitting here getting a massage, which is only on the driver's side. It's included on this trim. Highly recommend that feature for longer road trips. It just makes the whole driving experience a lot nicer. This car also comes with Kia's regen braking system with one pedal drive. It basically will give you an I-pedal mode, which I have it in max right now. It gives you maximum regen. It essentially almost feels like I'm driving the vehicle, like I'm hitting the brakes. You can also dial it back to go to a level 3 or level 2, or you can turn off the regen braking entirely if you guys don't like the regen braking. Again, I kind of like it in between level 2 or level 3 at that range. I think it gives you a fairly good amount of regen braking. In terms of the range, let's go ahead and talk about that, because the EV9 is rated to get up to 270 miles of range on a full charge. That's with the GT line, which lowers the range by about 10 compared to like a light or wind or a land trim, because of the bigger wheels and tires. It has been perfect weather conditions in my week's worth of testing in this vehicle. It's currently 70 degrees, it's beautiful and sunny and gorgeous out, it's not windy. And in my week's worth of testing, I actually was able to beat that EPA number. On a full charge, the trip computer was showing around 280 to 290 miles of range, and I got around 280 miles in my week's worth of testing, which is fantastic. Considering, this model has a slightly just under 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, 99.6. I think that range is going to be sufficient for most people. Now, obviously, the magic number here is over 300 miles of range. You could buy a Model X with over that. You can buy a Rivian R1S with like around 360 miles of range. I haven't had a chance to range test those vehicles, but I think 280 in the real world is going to suffice for most people. And if you do plan on taking longer road trips, obviously you could go for a land trim, which will offer a little bit more range. The highest range is going to be a rear-wheel drive light long range. That'll do up to 304. I suspect in real-world testing in these conditions, it'll probably get over 310, over 320 miles. I'd have to wait until I get one to retest to actually confirm that. But overall, what the EV9 is essentially the electric Kia Telluride that I'm not entirely sure people were asking for, but it definitely feels like a next-gen Telluride. It's interesting how Kia offers both vehicles side by side, even though they don't share a platform at all. You get a sense that this car just feels like a next generation fully electric Telluride, which is not a bad thing. And it's precisely why, the EV9 exists. This car is built off of the very scalable, eGMP architecture. We will be seeing a Hyundai version called the Ioniq 9 come out. Genesis just showed off the Neo Loon concept, which is kind of like their version of this architecture. So really, it's a wonderful place to start. And it really, proves that Kia is very capable of building a premium long-range electric vehicle. And they're also, really just shocking the industry by coming to market first with something like this from a mainstream player. And obviously this car is certainly still not affordable, especially at the top end like this. Although I will say that as of this filming in April, Kia is offering up to $7,500 of cash incentives on the hood for this vehicle, even though it technically doesn't qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit, at least until Kia moves production to their Georgia plant, which they should be doing sometime in the next month or two. But overall, if you're looking for an electric SUV, but you need 3 rows of seating and you don't want to spend, $100,000 on the Tesla or the Rivian or even the upcoming Volvo, although that's right around $80,000, this EV9 is certainly going to surprise a lot of people, especially if you're trading in your Palisade or your Telluride. So even though the all-new Kia EV9 literally just went on sale a couple of months ago, Kia has already been showing some pretty strong sales data for this vehicle. In terms of first quarter sales up until April of this year, the company has managed to move a little over 4,000 units of the EV9 here in the US, which means you're talking around 12 to 1,500 units per month, which honestly has exceeded Kia's sales expectation. It's practically matched the sales of the less expensive and smaller EV6. So I imagine in the first full year of sales, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kia do between 20 to 25,000 units, which, to be honest, that number would match the sales figures that Tesla does in the US in terms of Model X vehicles. Rivian did around 25,000 R1S vehicles in the US in 2023. But keep in mind, those vehicles are also significantly more expensive because, as you guys saw, the EV9 is coming from a mainstream car company, and it's going to be a lot more affordable. The interior of this vehicle, however, has a luxury car feel. I love the tech in the car. Finally, Kia has added wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with their latest software. It's got a roomy interior with high quality materials, very, very comfortable seats. As you guys saw, so the performance is, overachieving. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds is just faster than what it needs to be. Keep in mind there are slower versions, although I think that even though I haven't had a chance to drive the single motor models, I probably would skip it because it probably doesn't have enough power to move around all of the heft for this vehicle. The third row is a little bit on the cramped side in terms of legroom, but the headroom space is definitely among the best that you're going to find in the segment. Second row is honestly as nice as the front seats in terms of space, and the cargo area is pretty average for this segment. Really, where the EV9 is going to kind of give you a little pause is in the pricing, because while this car is affordable by electric 3-row SUV, contenders, this car still starts at just under $55,000 for the 230-mile rear-wheel drive light version. So around 55 grand plus destination. If you guys want all-wheel drive, you're going to have to at least spend $64,000 for a Wind with all-wheel drive. Again, that price tag is going to be around $10,000 more versus a fully loaded version of like a Kia Telluride. In general, the EV9 is almost $20,000 more versus a Telluride, because the Telluride, as you guys know, same size vehicle, just a gas-powered car. This GT line that I'm showing you here is the most expensive version of the EV9. It's going to have some upgraded features like the 21-inch wheels, the additional torque, the massaging front seats, the digital cube projection LED headlights with the really cool grille graphics. This model here with the ocean blue paint and some accessories and the $2,000 relaxation chair package, my tester comes to just over $78,000. I know, we're talking about an $80,000 Kia SUV, which sounds incredibly expensive. I mean, for those of you who are looking at like a $50,000 Telluride, it is quite a stretch to go to a vehicle like this. But I want to remind you guys, a Model X is going to start at around $80,000. That's for the 5-passenger version. To get the 3-row Model X, it'll be closer to $90,000. If you're looking at a Rivian R1S, those start at around 75 grand, but with options, you're looking at around $80,000. You can also spec up the Rivian to be well over $100,000 if you guys want the bigger battery pack. There's also the upcoming Volvo EX90, which is going to start at around $79,000. But remember, that's where those vehicles start, and this is where the Kia EV9 ends. So kind of keep in mind, if you guys are looking at a wind trim level with all-wheel drive, that could be the sweet spot. You're talking around the mid $60,000 range. And as we're filming this video, as of April of 2024, Kia does have some pretty good incentives going on. I think you can actually lease an EV9 for around $400 a month with like $5,000 down, and they also are offering $7,500 on cash on the hood in terms of a rebate, because remember, these vehicles are built in Korea for now, although Kia is moving production of the EV9 to their plant in Georgia sometime in the next couple of months. And once they do that, we're probably going to see this car qualify for the full $7,500 federal tax credit in the 2025 model year. But if you guys want to get one of these now, I am seeing Kia offer a national rate here with strong lease deals, and of course the $7,500 rebate that you basically get as cash on the hood from the dealerships that they'll take off the price when you purchase this vehicle. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Kia EV9 in the GT line trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.